For too long, Black Floridians have been underrepresented and overlooked. However, Equal Ground Education Fund, Florida's preeminent award-winning Black voting rights organization, is changing that. With the mission to expand and build Black political power, Equal Ground is transforming the political landscape in Florida. Since its inception in 2019, this organization has mobilized thousands of voters, empowered countless communities, and ensured that every voice is heard and every vote counts. At the heart of Equal Ground's work is voter education, providing Floridians with the knowledge they need to navigate the voting process and understand the issues that matter most to them. Through innovative mobilization efforts like Day at the Capitol and grassroots campaigns, Equal Ground is making voting accessible and engaging for all. But Equal Ground doesn't stop at the ballot box. They fight tirelessly in courts, challenging policies that threaten voting rights and advocating for fair representation. Their litigation efforts are paving the way for a more equitable future. When Black communities are informed and engaged, they can drive real change. That's the vision we're working toward every day at Equal Ground.
Good evening. My name is Genesis Robinson, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director of Equal Ground Education Fund and Equal Ground Action Fund. We are a Black-led voting rights and social justice organization committed to increasing civic engagement and building Black political power across the state of Florida. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. Even though we may not be in the same room, the spirit of community, resistance, and hope connects us across every computer screen or cell phone. Earlier today, Equal Ground launched 100 Days, 100 Ways, a campaign exposing the harm of Donald Trump's presidency on Black and working class people. This campaign was born out of urgency and out of truth. In his first 100 days back in office, Donald Trump has launched an unprecedented assault on American democracy, and Black communities are among the hardest hit. With more than 100 executive actions, policy changes, and rollbacks, this administration is not just dismantling democratic norms, it is deepening systemic inequities across nearly every sector of life. Under the guise of governance, Trump's administration has attacked voting rights, civil rights, education, diversity, equity, and inclusion, healthcare, the economy, housing and immigration, environmental justice, as well as the legal system. He has called for the passage of the SAVE Act and signed an executive order mandating proof of citizenship to vote. He has pardoned January 6th insurrectionists who attacked democracy and targeted Black lawmakers. We've seen the defunding of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across federal government, the appointment of officials with anti-civil rights records in charge of the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, the implementation of immigration policies that terrorize Black and brown communities, instances such as reinstating the Muslim ban, stripping protections from migrants, and ramping up mass deportations that tear families apart. We've seen harmful economic policies like regressive tariffs that raise prices on essentials, goods that working families, especially Black households, need while cutting taxes for the wealthy. We've seen opportunities for Black and brown businesses slashed, with federal programs dismantled and affirmative action requirements for contracting eliminated, creating a pathway for further cuts to growth. We've seen the gutting of housing protections, the refusal to meet with civil rights leaders, and his allowing of unelected billionaires like Elon Musk to influence major policy decisions, including on space, surveillance, artificial intelligence, with no accountability or congressional oversight. These are not merely policy shifts. These are deliberate acts to roll back decades of hard-fought progress, a full-scale retreat from the American promise. But for us in Florida, none of this is new. Long before America knew the name of Project 2025, we were living it right here in the Sunshine State. Before Project 2025 had a name, it had a home, right here in Florida, under the DeSantis administration and a far-right supermajority legislature. And so many in my community are asking the question, does our government even want to serve us? Because these attacks are not just frequent, they're relentless. We've watched voting rights stripped away through laws like Senate Bill 90. We've seen DEI programs dismantled and Black history erased from Florida classrooms. We've seen reproductive freedom gutted. And we've seen our local power undermined with the preemption of laws that target Black progress and remove duly elected officials from office. But history teaches us that our people are resilient. We come from a lineage of great fighters, and that every act of courage, defiance, and resistance is fuel for the path forward. And so tonight, you will hear directly from people who are living through the consequences of these policies. You will hear their stories, you will hear their pain, and you will also come to understand their power. We're also going to educate you on how the executive orders themselves, what they say, what they do, how they're being used to sidestep democracy. Because despite controlling Congress, Trump has struggled to pass many of his legislative ideas. So instead, he decided to govern by executive order with just over 100 executive orders in less than 100 days. Why? Because these proposals are too radical to survive public debate. Or maybe this is just another example of his disregard for democracy and his willingness to bypass Congress and use the stroke of a pen to reshape the lives of so many people without accountability. But what we see and what we are witnessing will not go unchallenged. Let's be very clear. What we're facing is not just a political agenda. It is a coordinated, calculated assault on truth, on equity, and on democracy itself. It's not just about one man or one office. It's about an entire system of power that is working overtime to silence our voices, erase our history, criminalize our communities, and block us from the ballot box. And still, we are here. Still, we rise in the tradition of our ancestors, the tradition of those who marched, who organized, who bled and built power in the face of brutality and injustice. We are not passive observers to history. We are protectors of democracy. We are the ones standing in the gap, not just for ourselves, but for our children, our elders, our neighbors, and the generations yet to come. This moment demands that we act. As Dr. King said, there's a fierce urgency for now. This moment demands that we reject fear and silence and replace them with courage and collective action. So let me say to everyone that is listening tonight, if you ever felt like your vote doesn't matter, I'm telling you it does. This first 100 days of this presidency is evidence of just that. Elections truly have consequences. If you've ever doubted whether your voice is powerful, I'm telling you it is. If you've ever looked at the state of this country and thought, what can I do? I'm telling you that you can organize, you can educate, you can resist, and you can vote like your life depends on it. We are not powerless. We are powerful when we move together, when we move with clarity, with strategy, and the yielding love to our people. So let this message be clear tonight, that we will not be erased, we will not be silenced, and we surely will not back down. Because this fight is not just about policy, it's about people, it's about dignity, it's about freedom, it's about the future that we all deserve. And as long as equal ground exists, as long as there's breath in our bodies and fire in our hearts, we will be here, fighting for justice, building power, and moving our communities forward. And so at this time, I'm now going to bring forth our legislative associate, Ms. Melanie Williams, to talk about the impact of the many executive orders that have been put forth by this administration and the implications of each of them. Melanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Genesis. Good evening. I just want to touch on something you said, which is that a lot of these policies are wildly unpopular on both sides of the aisle, so much so that these things would not stand up to public debate and they would not pass. So he has taken to governing through passing executive orders. So I'll jump right in and share a handful of executive orders this evening that have been put into action and that definitely have detrimental impacts for all people and especially for Black people. So the first one we have is Executive Order 14242, entitled Improving Education Outcomes by Empowering Parents, States, and Communities. And what this executive order sought to do was to initiate the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education. Some of the impacts that that'll have is a complete loss of the civil rights protections that the Department of Education oversees and implements for school systems across the country. It threatens access to financial aid. So the Department of Education oversees and administers the Pell Grant, which is something that over half of Black students in college use and depend on in order to gain access to higher education. Another impact is increased educational disparities. So without federal oversight, states may implement policies that just exacerbate existing educational inequalities. And then we'll see a reduction in special education support that's already been being passed down with the closure of the Department of, or not the closure, but the slow dismantling of the Department of Education. And last but certainly not least, another impact we'll see is going to be the elimination of DEI initiatives and programs within the public school system. That's obviously something that we're going to touch on. DEI is something across the board that they're looking to dismantle, not just in education. Executive Order number 2 that I want to talk about today is 14173, entitled Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity. This is an executive order that targets DEI policies and programs in all executive departments and agencies and for all federal contractors. It also demands that, and this is something that, obviously they cannot do, but it demands that private companies as well terminate their DEI efforts. And we've already seen the rolling back of DEI programs at companies like Amazon, Lowe's, and a big one that there's been a concerted effort to boycott is Target. So we also see an attack on Black businesses with Executive Order 14238. It's entitled Continuing the Reduction of the Federal Bureaucracy. And what this is going to do is significantly reduce the functionality and personnel of 7 government agencies, including the Minority Business Development Agency. Something that should be concerning to all is that this executive order actually mandated that all of the heads, the directors of these agencies send a report to the director of the Office of Management and Budget. And the reason why that is important, that office serves the President of the United States in overseeing the implementation of his vision across the board. So across the whole executive branch, all the agencies and departments, that's what that office does. And the person who currently is the director of that office, Russell, some call him Russ for short, last name Vought, He is one of the main authors of Project 2025. So it should be extremely alarming, not just to Black people, but to people in general. And then we have something that really targets social justice advocates and organizations. Executive Order 14235, titled Restoring Public Service Loan Forgiveness. So as many of you know, public service loan forgiveness is a program where you can have your student loans forgiven if you work for nonprofits, if you work as a teacher, and fields like that. So this is really targeting activist organizations and calling the work that we do, that these organizations do, illegal discrimination. So really targeting DEI in that right. And then we have white supremacy in the White House. So this Executive Order 14253, Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, really outlines the administration's goal of revoking funding from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and anything dealing with transgender identity, including the Smithsonian American Women's History Museum. So again, furthering the attacks on DEI by looking at our institutions that preserve our culture and our history. That also includes actually restoring some of the Confederate monuments that we've actually gotten taken down in recent years. That's a part of preserving American history. So the next executive order I want to touch on is 14151, entitled Ending Radical and Wasteful Government DEI Programs and Preferencing. This is something that led the Environmental Protection Agency to begin to close down DEI efforts, programs, and actually one of their offices, the Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights, which just like it sounds, that office really tackled protecting Black and low-income communities from disproportionate environmental harms. This is something that we know, that we've seen, that environmental racism and the impacts of that, and what, the impacts that has on public health and on our communities specifically. So targeting those programs, saying they're unnecessary. The administrator of this agency actually was quoted to say, some believe that so-called environmental justice is warranted to assist communities that have been left behind. This idea sounds good in theory and receives bipartisan support, but in reality, environmental justice has been used primarily as an excuse to fund left-wing activists instead of actually spending those dollars to directly remediate environmental issues for those communities. So some of the same anti-DEI rhetoric, just dealing with the environment. And then we have the attack on voting rights. So similar to the SAVE Act, but a little bit different, but it's an actual executive order, 14248. It's called Preserving and Protecting the Integrity of American Elections. One of the main things it would do is mandate proof of US citizenship when you're registering to vote, but also if you need to update, if you're already registered, but you want to update your voter registration. It also, a big thing in this executive order is that it would require that all mail-in ballots are received by Election Day. So currently 18 states do count ballots that are postmarked on Election Day, but received after Election Day. So it would completely prohibit that. This order also directs federal agencies to assist states in verifying voter eligibility, and it threatens to withhold federal funding from states that don't comply with the new law. And this was actually blocked in part, so it's still going through the legal system, but there are parts of it that are no longer in effect. The two main parts that are still in effect are that DOJ and the Department of Homeland Security will be allowed access to state voter rolls. And then the Department of Justice is permitted to take action against any state that counts ballots after Election Day, counts mail-in ballots received after Election Day. So that's still a big one. Those remained in effect because the judge found that the plaintiffs did not have standing to bring those cases. So hopefully we'll see some movement on that. So part of that remains in effect. These are the ways that you can stay connected with Equal Ground. We are going to hear from quite a few folks, Floridians across the state, who have been impacted personally. But if you have any questions, we're here with you this evening. So just let us know. And you can also reach out to us on our socials or by texting Equal Ground, all one word, to 52886. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Melanie. And so now that we have had an opportunity to break down the executive orders and talk about the impact that they are having, we want to now bring forth the people and allow you to hear directly from over a dozen of Floridians, people from all across this state, from the Panhandle to South Florida, who will talk about the actual impact and how their lives have been impacted by the policies that we are seeing from this administration in the first 100 days. And so at this time, we're now going to bring forth the comments of people who have been impacted by this administration.
The actions taken in the first 100 days of this administration have caused anger and angst for persons in my community. Fear and uncertainty about what will happen to the Social Security and Medicaid benefits they rely on for income and health care consume the minds of many. Employment concerns for those who work for the federal government are elevated. Inflation and increased costs for food and other expenses have presented challenges for those on fixed incomes. Proposed spending cuts to vital affordable housing and homelessness assistance programs, as well as housing choice vouchers, exacerbates an existing challenge for my community. Funding cuts to Title I schools could potentially affect our elementary school partnership. Attempts to erase the history and accomplishments of African Americans from school books and websites, and the removal of immigrants of color without due process stir a myriad of emotions amongst those in my community. Now, while these efforts have discouraged my community, they have also stirred a determination to do justice. The first 100 days of this administration have provided for us a renewed commitment for collaboration and connection within the community that I serve. It has amplified the importance of unity and has highlighted the necessity for community. In community, see, we draw strength, support, and wisdom from one another, the kind of strength and support that is vital for the building of resilience. We have been reminded we are stronger together and we are determined to move forward together.
Hi, I'm Shak Willen, an HR consultant, community advocate, and mother of 10. I've spent over the last 2 decades helping people, organizations build inclusive workspaces and protect the vulnerable and the dignity of those marginalized workers. But I will tell you, in the first 100 days of the Trump administration, we have seen, and I've seen something that's very, very dangerous take shape. A deliberate attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion, for better terms, DEI. This wasn't just about Black people. It's been an assault on women, on people with disabilities, veterans, and anyone else who dared to demand a seat at the table that wasn't a white male. So I've served in HR leadership across government, nonprofits, in corporate America. And I've seen firsthand how quickly progress has been unraveled. Diversity trainings have been canceled. Inclusion policies have been quietly swept under the rug or shelved. And Employees are told not to bring their authentic self or even their identity into the workplace. It's just how you're a worker. And the impact, well, for me as a candidate, I've seen where it's about meritocracy and not about what you bring to the table. Women have been silent about speaking about harassment. Disabled professionals have been denied basic accommodations. And with Elon Musk's Doge, there's nobody left to even help. A lot of these organizations have been denigrated at the federal level. So I've held space for people just like myself that are trying to figure out, what do we do right now? I've had to scrub my resume on LinkedIn to say that I'm not certified in DEI. I've had other people say, hey, don't put that on your resume, or don't fill out that application for there. So the Trump administration just didn't make equity political. It's made it optional for people. But let me be clear. It's just not that personal story for me. It's professional. It's systemic. And it's urgent. When you silence diversity, you shrink the very innovation that has made us the United States of America. When you attack equity, you undermine this economy that's made it the greatest place, the place that everybody wants to come. And of course, when you abandon inclusion, we leave millions of people behind. So we deserve better. So when I speak up for the Black mom, professional woman, the disabled veteran, young person who's on campus trying to better himself and not understanding whether the university is going to cancel a Black student union or a LGBTQ parade. I stand up because equity isn't a trend. It's a right. Thank you.
Greetings. I'm Braden Friday. I'm a pastor, community leader, an educator, a retired military officer, and an American. In these first 100 days as a pastor, I've had the displeasure of seeing the name of our Lord dragged through the mud of division and radical extremism. True spiritual leadership has been replaced with the partnership of the ruling majority and modern-day Pharisees with a loose regard for truth, who allowed what they prefer while strongly rejecting and scrutinizing what displeases them. In this case, abortion is presented as an issue God hates, while things like lying, pride, adultery, rape, greed, cruelty, etc. is overlooked, not because it's wrong, but because it's politically accepted or rejected. As a community leader, I'm seeing the basic civil rights that so many people of all races died for depicted as a bad thing. Phrases like woke and DEI are been outcries used to justify discrimination. Sadly, many of the people who say get rid of DEI or the woke agenda don't have a clue what it means, much less what it stands for. Justice and equity seems only applicable to certain segments of our community. This is plainly exhibited in the administration's immigration initiative. Under this unfathomable injustice, any person of color, including Native Americans, can be questioned and considered for deportation. As an educator, I proudly served as an associate professor at the acclaimed Tuskegee University, as well as a vocational director of a last chance at-risk school. In this first 100 days, the administration's objective is to do away with the Department of Education, while they eliminate and outlaw any literature presenting the historical record of minorities. Not only is this being done in our schools, but also in our military academies. Anything considered DEI is viewed as a threat, while writings like Hitler's Mein Kampf is accepted literature. As a military veteran, I proudly served under both Republican and Democrats, at peace and at war. I served with joint services and with allies in the United States and abroad in Saudi Arabia, Spain, and the Horn of Africa. In less than 100 days, our nation is forfeiting alliances that have been in place for well over 100 years under the encrypted messages ingrained in America First. Now we're alienated from our neighbors and allies, while our greatest enemy is being given a red carpet into our nation's secrets. As an American, despite our nation's flaws, I'm proud to be an American. However, we must come together as a nation to solve the mess we find ourselves in. In the words of Martin Luther King, we must live together as brothers or perish together as fools. This is our opportunity to regain the great momentum that we lost in these few months and reestablish ourselves as a nation of the people, by the people, for the people, and that being all the people. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless our nation.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew W. Shak, Sr., and I'm a disabled, 100% rated veteran. I just want to share with you guys some things that I found out about the Veteran Administration and how DOGE has affected the Veteran Administration. I've been to the local veterans, which here is in Panama City Beach, for the last 25 years. But within the last few months, the service has really dwindled and become more ineffective. First of all, they have a shortage, and I talked to some of them I know out there. They are accepting those who are eligible for retirement are retiring. They got notice from those that they were going to be asked to resign, so a friend of mine who worked, or several friends of mine who work for the VA, said they are in a panic out there. A lot of the doctors are quitting because they don't want to be fired. They are seeking other practices, maybe going in practice for themselves or finding other providers that they could share their time with. Appointments are getting longer. The time that you spend with your provider is shorter. A lot of the medication, I'm 100% disabled. I have a lot of medication I take. I have PTSD, I have Agent Orange from Vietnam. I have, in the last few years, last few months, I should say, had a lot of problems with getting my prescription on a timely basis. So when I was out there 2 weeks ago to talk to my primary care provider, she was telling me that they're having a lot of problems with that. I was not the only veteran complaining, that a lot of her patients are complaining because they are doing two things, and this basically because of the shortage of personnel. A lot of the prescriptions that normally arrive within 7 to 10 days are arriving sometime in 2 weeks or more. I just had a prescription that I ran out. Let them know I'm a diabetic, type 2 diabetes from Agent Orange. I use the Dexcom glucose meter, and I requested a refill the Dexcom 6. I've been requesting the Dexcom 7 because it's more simple and it doesn't require the transmitters like Dexcom 6. Back in October, I had to wait and go back to finger sticks for 6 weeks because they kept getting my refills confused.
Hi, my name is Jill Lewis, and I am a co-founder of the Northwest Florida Panhandle Coalition for Civic Engagement. And I want to thank Equal Ground for giving me this opportunity to share my personal story about the impact of Elon Musk, Donald Trump, in just 100 days to my family and my community. I remember Project 2025, hard to forget, and how we went through page by page to read over it, to understand it, how fearful it was to think about it coming into reality. And then I remembered, as if it was yesterday, November, and how the decision was made that Project 2025 wasn't real, that it wasn't going to happen, and that so many people believed the lies and the deceit. And yet here we are in 2025 living Project 2025. My family is deeply rooted in the military. My grandfathers, my dad, my uncles, my brother, his wife, and my son now, who served honorably, was injured, and is now disabled. And I think across our communities and our states about the veterans that are homeless, that live on the street and in their cars and on our sidewalks, and how we have failed them, how they gave everything and sacrificed everything for us. And we can't give them the health care that they need. We can't give them the mental health care that they need. We can't even give them the homes that they need and deserve. It's not just heartless, it's dangerous. This administration, Trump's allies through Project 2025, they want to restructure the VA, dismantle benefits. They want veterans to prove that they deserve the help. This administration is doing so much to hurt us. It's actively trying to erase Black history, removing references to the Tuskegee Airmen from military courses, scrubbing exhibits of Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad and from public museums, as if silencing our past will ever change it. This is not the America we deserve. This isn't about politics anymore. For me, it's about you. It's about our community. It's about our children and our grandchildren. It's about our neighbors. And it's about, are we ready to finally stand up and do something? Or are we going to continue to act like it's not impacting us? Because it is. The only way to change is to galvanize, is to educate, and to never, ever, ever miss another vote. The impact is real. The decision is ours, and enough.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Lamar James, president of Generational Mindset. And I wanted to jump on and just kind of talk about maybe the first few months of our president, just maybe some things we've been able to see and maybe how it's affected me. So I work in education, and so far what I've saw, unfortunately, are some of the job cuts here for our teachers and staff, cuts of programs, educational programs that our students benefit from, even some after-school programs that were related to education. So unfortunately, we have been seeing that just kind of ending or rounding out the 24-25 school year. They've already kind of given the budget for the 25-26 school year. Therefore, there are at least about 12 teachers or staff that will not be coming back to our school beginning of the new school year this year. So right now, my position, I don't know if it's safe or not, but I'm the mental liaison here at the school. And so, but for those individuals who play a pivotal role in our students' lives, they are not going to be brought back due to some of the cuts to education. So I just want to chime in on that and speak on that from my perspective. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Jaya Willen. I'm the founder of Be Diverse Network, and we're a nonprofit that pretty much empowers the trans communities through education, advocacy, healthcare, access, professional development. And I'm a proud Black trans woman myself, and I want to talk about how the first 100 days has impacted us. The most harmful ways that we were impacted was probably through Trump's healthcare initiatives. Those are probably the absolute worst. Cutting back our gender-affirming care, having people have the access to the HIV care that they need, and us being a Black-led and organization. And sometimes it's very difficult for our people to even have trust to even go to the doctor. It's hard for our people to even trust to even fill out paperwork because we don't know if someone's going to reach the information. Someone's going to be taken from that. So it's a lot of times that we lack those resources, and then the little bit of resources that we did have been taken away as well. And that plays a huge also, something that plays a huge part is DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Running this organization, a lot of times these organizations have felt more comfortable to pull out of, grants. Grants are drying up. Also, organizations also sponsorship because they have to now because DE&I is being cut federally, and when it's cut federally from the top, it just kind of trickles down. So people feel like, hey, we don't have to do anything for these organizations, but we still are people, and we still have a very large group of people that are relying on for these services. I am very proud of Equal Ground for giving us the opportunity to speak on this today, but I want to say that we are still organizing, we're still educating, really creating safe spaces in our communities. Honestly, we can't afford to wait for a policy to catch up. The fight for our equity, it does not stop. It didn't start with Trump and it won't end with Trump. And we were going to have to continue to fight and support. And we're going to need allies. We're going to need we're going to need people to call us by our name. And I thank you so much. And y'all have a wonderful day.
100 days. That's all it took for the world I knew to start feeling unfamiliar. Like the foundation I stood on was suddenly cracking beneath my feet. When Donald Trump stepped into the White House, he didn't just carry policies, he carried a message. One that told people who look like me, you don't matter. Your story doesn't belong here. Your dreams are inconvenient. And yet I dreamed anyway. I dreamed of politics, of making laws, building communities, and defending truth. But in those first 100 days, I learned that wanting to serve a country that doesn't always see your humanity is a radical act. As a young Black woman sitting in classrooms where my history was missing, my identity was questioned, and my pain was being debated on like it was theoretical. Peers called me articulate as if I was an exception, like I shouldn't be educated or something. And policies rolled in like waves, washing away the very programs that once helped me feel seen. Diversity, equity, inclusion, gone, stripped, labeled divisive. And suddenly my presence felt political. But I wasn't just present. I was paying attention to the way fear grew louder in our communities, to how hate crimes climbed while compassion disappeared, to how being Black and bold became dangerous and being quiet felt like betrayal. Some nights I couldn't sleep, thinking of all the ways power was being reshaped to push us out, to shut us up, and keep us small. And yet I kept going. Because Black women, we don't fold. We bend, but we rise. We cry in the bathroom, then step back into the boardroom. We carry the weight of our ancestors and make space for our brothers and our sisters. Trump's first 100 days, they didn't break me. They built me. They sharpened me. It made me wiser and more unapologetically Black. It taught me that if the system was never built for me, then I was born to rebuild it. And that's exactly what I plan to do. Not for recognition, not for the claps, but because every young Black girl and every young Black boy deserves to see herself or himself in leadership without having to prove that he or she belongs. To dream of power without having to shrink, to speak truth without fearing punishment or retaliation. So if you ask me what those 100 days felt like, they felt like fire, but I didn't burn, I forged. And I'm walking into every room from now on, not asking for a seat at the table, but bringing my own table, as Dr. McCoy was saying. So thank you so much again. My name is Alexis Dominique Dameron. I am a graduating senior at the illustrious Bethune-Cookman University, coming from the fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's been a pleasure and honor to present my insight and perspective of the first 100 days of Donald Trump. And I hope that this little piece moves you and motivates you to go harder and show up unapologetic Black anyways and spread truth and just continue the fight. So thank you so much again and have a great day.
I'm Jerry McIntosh with Moving for Change, Inc. Today, I want to thank Equal Ground for the work that they are doing here in the state of Florida and throughout the nation. That's going to really help save our democracy. So just want to say that, again, thanks for all of the things they are doing for the different and working with the different organizations here in the state of Florida. As you know, the Department of Education, which worked with 2.2 million children, has been decimated. Social Security and all of those agencies are being decimated in this country. And this is why we have to be involved and engaged. We cannot be detached spectators sitting on the sidelines of life. We have to make sure that we are involved and engaged in what has to be done to take care of ourselves and take care of the elderly, the disabled, our children through our Social Security. And as you know, in Social Security, they are declaring people already deceased who are very much alive. And you know, when your Social Security stops, if you Medicare, that stops. Your supplements, that stops. And then you got to wait maybe a month or two before you can get back reinstated, which by then you could be homeless, have no food, or just all your whole life is wrecked because someone declared that you are not alive, or that you are unalive. And then there's the SNAP program, which help our children, and the free lunch and the WIC program that help women and infants and children with food and healthy supplement nutrition program that has to be protected. These safety nets are going to have to be protected throughout this country. And that means that, again, that we're going to have to be involved in making sure that these issues are addressed and they are addressed properly. And this is why it's so important that Equal Ground and Move for Change and engagement organizations have to work together. We have to work fiercely to make sure that our environment is protected. We're going to have to fight to make sure the Center for Disease Control is brought back to where it should be. There's just so many things that are hurting the democracy and hurting this country, and it's going to affect all of us in one way or the other. Martin Luther King said, "We all tied together in a single garment of destiny, and whatever affects one directly, indirectly affect us all." And so we are being indirectly affected. If a person is on Social Security, if a person is on Medicare, all of these things are going to directly affect whole families, because that means that now families are going to have to take in people who may lose their benefits because of it. Then we have to think about the veterans and all of those individuals who are suffering because of the cuts that have taken place, which was already understaffed. So in saying that, I don't want to go too long, but the Food and Drug Administration is understaffed. And then when you look at the Consumer Protection Act that has protected us from high credit card rates and banks overdraft that has just decimated people in the past, is now being done away with. So again, I want to thank Equal Ground and all of the other organizations that works to make sure that we are protected here in the state of Florida and throughout this country. Democracy depends on engaged participants.
Hello, I'm Rosemary McCoy, and this message is my personal news. And I want to talk about 100 days of Trump. What has he done in 100 days? And I'm going to list a few things because he did a lot. And then I'm going to first focus on something that I believe is dear to my heart. In 100 days, he has used unprecedented use of executive orders. He slashed the federal workforce. He banned diversity programs. He dismantled USAID. He destroyed the stand we had with United States allies, such as Canada, for one. He initiated a tariff war. He shipped without due process immigrants to El Salvador. And I want to focus more on the DEI, because the DEI program, it was designed to address, a lot of issues, a lot of groups that has been marginalized through the years, racism, discrimination. And one of the things I like for the people to understand is that white women benefited from the DEI program. The DEI program was also set up for those that disabilities. It was set up for veterans. It was set up for LGBTQ+. And when he dismantled this, these are the people he basically affected. Because the program supported, number one, respect in this United States. And we need that to be the comeback, the culture. Because basically we have lost the respect of humanity. And even so, with this today, judges are being arrested. That way they would fear, going against his administration. But also, we need judges because they are the one that's holding this United States together. So when it comes to DEI, it affects every area of this United States. And I would like to say to the white Caucasian women is that you need to remember until 1920, you wasn't able to vote, you wasn't able to own properties, you wasn't able to have a bank account. So you need to understand this is not a Black issue. This is everyone's issue. So I'm just asking the public, make sure that we get out, we do those things that we ought to do. Number one, register to vote, make sure you have the proper ID, and not just register to vote, get out to vote, and make sure you are knowledgeable about these judges that we are putting in office in 2026 and 2028. So please support us in doing what you can do to help the American people thrive and to keep America alive. Thank you.
My name is Pastor Jared Parker. I'm the senior pastor at the Friendship Missionary Baptist Church in Fort Myers, Florida. In reflection of the first 100 days of the administration of Donald Trump, it is obvious to many, particularly in our state, Florida, which is a ruby red state, that his policies and his demeanor and his rhetoric has fueled the already in place division and hatred we've been seeing over the past few years and beyond. That have been visited in our community. There's more division than ever, particularly with our young people. I think it has caused people to separate more and not come together, be it politically or be it racially. The dynamic is something and we haven't seen the full impact of it, but we're beginning to see those things that he's doing and saying have an effect on our community, and also his policies in terms of the ICE, the policy with immigration and deportation. We've begun to see it had a great effect on our community with our city council and our political atmosphere here in Fort Myers and Lee County. And then with many of our people in our congregation, these tariffs, creating the uncertainty of the financial environment for many who are worried about their 401ks, their retirement plans. We have many on Medicare and Medicaid who are concerned. We have many people who work in government, be it national, state, and local government in our church. We have those who have been fired, those who have been let go simply by an email, those who walked into work and just found out that they didn't have a job and not knowing what to do next. And of course, the rising cost in groceries, which is hitting our local economy very hard. And so with all of that, it is a perfect dynamic for combustion, and we don't know what that's going to look like. We can only hope and pray that the impact won't be as great as we see it potentially being at this point. There is a renewed energy. There was disappointment beyond after the election. And people were sort of had a sense of giving up, but there's a renewed energy to quote unquote take back the flag and put some sensibility into our White House, because it is trickling all the way down to our local governments. And we're beginning to see the despair of many of those things that's coming out of the White House.
Wow, that was incredibly powerful. And I don't know about you, but I'm charged up. I'm ready to fight on. And I know that, everything that we've seen the last 100 days is certainly fuel to the fire to continue this fight. But before we end tonight, I want to once again thank each of you for joining us tonight. Your presence, your willingness to listen, to learn, to act matters more than you know. And I especially want to thank those who courageously shared their stories tonight. Your voices are powerful, and your truth is what I am sure and we are hopeful will move others to action. As we shared, this administration has taken over 100 actions in just 100 days that harm Black and working class communities. And we've documented these actions through our 100 Days, 100 Ways campaign. And so I invite you to go to our social media pages, to explore, to share, and to use this information as a tool for change. We can be reached on social media at Equal Ground Florida. Again, that's at Equal Ground Florida. I also invite you to connect with us. You can text the word Equal Ground, one word, to 52886. Again, that's Equal Ground, one word, to 52886. Be a part of our community. Join us in this fight, for we know that many hands lifted certainly makes the load lighter. And I think, if we didn't learn anything tonight, we learned that elections have consequences. And those consequences shape policy, they shape power, and most importantly, they impact and shape people's everyday lives. And sometimes these consequences inspire hope. And other times, like today, that hope is paired with a necessity to act. And so it is my hope that what we're witnessing today, the rollbacks, the regression, the repression, the disregard for justice and truth, will awaken in all of us a deeper responsibility to act, a responsibility to stay engaged, a responsibility to show up, not just in moments of crisis, but in moments of opportunity. I hope that this moment ignites in us a responsibility to fight for what we know is true, for what we know is being lost, and for what is still possible. Because when we engage, when we don't just protest, and when we get into the fight, we can build toward the future that we all collectively believe in. And so right now, we need belief. We need courage. We need people who understand that silence is not neutrality. Silence is surrender. And so let tonight be a turning point. Let it be a reminder that we can resist, that we can organize, that we can win, not just because we've done it before, but because our lives, our communities, and our very future depends on it. We are not powerless. We are powerful, and we are just getting started. So thank you again for being here, and we appreciate being in the fight with you. And always remember, it is our duty to fight. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and protect each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Have a good night.